If the Mayor of Toronto has his way, the controversial practice of carding will no longer be undertaken by Toronto Police. Joining us now for more on the change of heart and what it will mean for policing in Ontario's capital city, Mike McCormick, president of the Toronto Police Association, and former Toronto police officer and criminal lawyer David Mercury. And I guess, besides welcoming you two back here to TVO, we should start by saying you two know each other really well, right?
We do. We do.
You two were.
I don't know who thinks that's unfortunate. He does, all right. We will admit on national TV right now, yeah, we do. And we work together.
We work together.
You walked the beat together.
We did so.
Right.
We did so.
How many years ago?
Oh, God. I think he had hair and my hair was black back
So
there.
a long time
a
ago.
long time ago.
That's
A long
right.
time
Very
ago.
good.
We don't want to date ourselves too much.
Understood.
And we were both slim.
Slim.
Well, you both still look great.
Thank you so much.
Let's get into this. David, what
Okay.
did you think when you heard that the Mayor of Toronto had changed his opinion on the practice of carding?
I was elated, and the first thought that came to my mind was, that's the mayor I voted for.
So we've learned a couple of things here. Number one, you did vote for this guy.
I did.
Okay. And number two, you think he made the right call.
Absolutely. There's no question he made the right call. No question he made the right call.
Mike, what was your view?
I was surprised.
First of all, you want to tell us whether you voted for him or not?
No, I don't want to tell you who I voted for or not. I don't want to be seen to influence any political thing in the city. But, we were surprised. And the reason we were surprised is that, the newly appointed chief had been speaking quite a lot about the process of carding, what it means to intelligence-led policing. There had been a process that was set up to revamp that whole process, and it was ongoing, and we would have liked to have seen what that was going to look like. And carding had been suspended since January by the former chief, Chief Blair, until we could review it, get it right, and try to make some tweaks. And that's what was happening. So we would have liked to have seen that happen before any notion of suspending or permanently getting rid of the program. What is intelligence-led policing and investigations going to look like? Because quite frankly, our membership needs some direction.
It's interesting. Your vocabulary is important, and I can see what you're doing here. You don't call it carding. You call it intelligence-led policing.
Well, you know what? Here's the interesting part about this debate about carding, and there are some components. It depends how you define carding. Whether or not Dave can say he's glad that carding is gone. If you're talking about bias policing, or if you're talking about random stops of people, nobody will disagree with that position. That's not. But it's how we're defining carding, and when we define it in the policing community, in the intelligence community, it's intelligence-led, and it's the ability for police officers to gather information, store that information, and share information.
David, is that how you saw
You
carding?
can call it whatever you want. You can call it intelligence-led. You can call it whatever you want. But the effect and the practice is it's bias-led. It's been proven over and over and over again that certain people are targeted and certain people are not. I have had it happen to myself on occasion.
You've been carded?
I haven't been carded because I know, and I'm firm in what my rights are, and I can walk away, and I'm not afraid to tell an officer, stick it.
So just so I understand, an officer has approached you at some point on the street, attempting to do this.
It starts with, how you doing? I'm well. What are you doing here? What do you mean, what am I doing? Well, what are you doing? Well, why do you want to know? I don't have to say what I'm doing there. If I'm not doing anything suspicious or I'm not doing anything, and the reason my answer responds like that, because I know where the conversation is going.
So it never got far enough for him to get your information.
Exactly.
We do know one person who's been carded in this city many, many, many times.
50 times, isn't it?
Correct. His name is Desmond Cole. He was on this program not too long ago. Check the monitors here in the studio. Want to play a clip of him, and then we'll chat some more.
Sure.
Let's roll the clip, please.
Carding is a colloquial term that we in the media used because we needed a word to describe this activity that the Toronto Police have been engaging in, which is stopping people who are not suspected of any crime. That's the key. They're not suspected of any crime. And nevertheless, documenting their personal information. It's the combination of those two things. You can stop somebody if you're the police and you can just say, hi, how are you doing? Nobody has a problem with that. It's the documentation of people who are not suspected of anything, and then the entering of that information into a police database.
definitions are important. So, Mike, are you content with that definition of carding?
No, not at all, number one. And number two is that I don't think I can just leave it out there that, that I have no issue with somebody who's been carded 50 times. And then if, I've had some discussions with Desmond around that. If somebody, I have a problem if somebody's been carded 50 times. I would like to have more information and details of what were the circumstances if there is an FOI to see that documentation, because I think that there is a problem if that's in fact what has happened, and we need to deal with that. But when I deal with intelligence-led policing and being an investigator, somebody on the street, and Dave being a former police officer, this was and is a valuable investigative tool for police officers when it's intelligence-led, when it is gathered in a lawful way, and that information is captured, stored, and shared. And we use it all the time as investigators. We use it to solve crimes, we use it to prevent crimes, and we use it for public safety.
Dave, we do have to point out that the new police chief in the city of Toronto, he himself, a black Canadian, favors carding.
But the fact that he's black, it doesn't mean anything. People think because he's black that it gives it more validity or something. I want someone who thinks like me. I don't care if they look like me. You can get blacks come in all different stripes. If it was, say it was the previous chief, Bill Blair, nobody's going to say he doesn't want carding, and he's white. Nobody's going to say that. So why are we saying that about Mark Saunders?
Because people, I don't know, but let me throw it out there. Because people in the black community think this is wrong. It disproportionately affects our communities. There is a black police chief right now. Therefore, he will be our champion. That's why.
You know what? I don't know that a lot of people in the black communities, and I say communities plural.
As did I.
Yeah, you did. I don't know a lot of people who say that in the black communities, people that I speak to, because you always get someone or someones, some who are going to disagree with whatever appears to be the popular sentiment.
Okay.
And it's just that in this case, he happens to be the chief. But because he's the chief and he agrees with it, doesn't make it any more valid. I haven't seen any statistics that talks about how effective carding is as far as investigative policing goes. If you take a shotgun approach and just card as many people as you can, of course you're going to get some hits.
Let me pick up on that because, Mike, it has been alleged that all of this, what do you call it, intelligence-based?
Intelligence-led investigations.
Okay.
Yes.
Has actually not led. I know the police chief today says it's an important tool to keep crime down, and then he's asked the follow-up question, which is, okay, point to a case where this helped you solve the case, and there's a lot of quiet.
Right.
Has it actually worked to help solve crimes?
100%. I've used it a number of times myself, and I have I'll talk to you about a number of instances where it has been used. But to get out there and say, like, Mark Saunders or the chief, and it's based on color or whatever, I agree with Dave, that this is a policing issue. But when we're talking about carding, again, it's what is, somebody define carding, because when we're talking about carding here, and we're talking about what is defined as bias policing, or that is something that we can all stand behind and say it should not be allowed, randomness should not be allowed. But when we're talking about the intelligence gathering portion, and it's not only Mark Saunders, but Deputy Chief Peter Slowly in 2013 in the media said Toronto police carding is an incredibly effective tool, and we're trying to make sure that the value goes up, the costs go down, and from those interactions we have solved major cases, sexual assaults, abuses of children, horrible multiple shootings have all come out of that practice. And that's Deputy Slowly who's saying that as well. I've used it.
Who is also black.
Who is also black, but this is about keeping safe communities, and it's about getting information in a respectful way
that suggests,
is unbiased.
Dave, that carding works.
Yes.
Well, okay, first off, we still don't see any kind of numbers. I haven't seen any kind of empirical data or empirical research that shows. And like I said before, if you take the shotgun approach and you hit enough, you shoot enough off and wide enough, you're going to get some hits. Okay? But let's talk about how do we control, because I don't think you can, how police decide who they're going to investigate. Someone's walking along, I can tell you that, okay, here's an anecdote. TTC a few years ago, when I was police, I don't know if you remember, a lot of the TTC booths were getting hit. They were getting robbed. So my partner and I we're set up in a spot to watch a booth, as we're a number of police officers, and I'm walking out of the station with a shotgun in my hand. Now, the suspects were both black and white. We had descriptions. Someone said to me, "Hey, Merc, look like you're going squirrel hunting." My partner for the evening said, "Yeah, black squirrels." Ooh. Now, that same person, when they're carding, you know, if you're looking at someone hard enough, you're going to think you saw something. You know, I always say, am I reaching for my wallet or a gun? What is it? So that is the problem with carding. There is no way that you can control, you know, the motivation or the
Okay. I got to ask you, what did you say to your partner when he said that?
Oh, we had a long discussion.
You did.
And unfortunately, my partner was female, and she was married to a black man. So she thought that because she's married to a black man, she can't have a racist viewpoint, which is totally wrong. You know?
All right, now let me put the flip side of that to you, Mike, which is, you know, the Star a couple of years ago looked into this, and they did find that blacks were 4 times disproportionately going to be stopped in the intelligence gathering process that you just described than whites.
Right.
That doesn't sound fair.
Well, again, like I want to go back. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. We respond to community complaints, we respond to radio calls, and we respond to where crime is happening. If anybody thinks for a moment that that's going to have a correlation with census population data, you're mistaken. We have to respond to the crime, and in socioeconomic conditions are going to have disproportionate amount of representation there. Street available population, meaning the people that the police officer walks by every day that are on the community dealing drugs on a street level, crime on a street level. Those are the people that we're going to interact more often than not.
So it's not a reflection of racism, it's a reflection of that's where most of the crime happens?
But I will say this, is that if for somebody to suggest that all, you know, information gathering or all of this intelligence gathering is completely unbiased. No, we're just like everybody else. We're going to have some issues around there. That's why we have to take randomness out of that. That's why we have to get away from that. But again, when I'm looking at that intelligence-led piece, I don't care what we call it, whether you call it street checks, carding, or whatever.
Calls it street checks.
Whatever you call it, I think we have to say, do the police have 3 fundamental responsibilities? Do we have the responsibility to do lawful investigations? Do we have a responsibility to record that information? And thirdly, do we have a responsibility to share that information? And you know, I don't have to give you an anecdote. I can tell you, when I worked in 51 major crime and street crime, I've solved aggravated assaults based on a description that we had on a card. We solved break and enters. We solved, we were involved in some homicide investigations where we identified people, and we use it for intelligence of associating people and dealing with people who, you know, later on we have used in criminal investigations. I'm sure Dave, when he was in the drug squad, he spent many years used that database for investigative purposes, okay, and there is valuable information contained within that.
I got your interpretation of those STAR statistics. I should get yours as well, David. The notion that blacks are disproportionately carded compared to other people. What's your inference from that?
And it's true. Look, when you're carding, I think, did we call them 249s?
172s.
172s. It's been a while.
What does that refer to?
That was the form number on the card. Okay. Call it a 172. So when you're trying to, as an officer, you're trying to look good, you want to get promotion or something, there are numbers that you would like to produce in order to show that you're on the job and you're you know, working hard. And so an officer has a good reason to put in a good number of 172s. So you're going to look around and you want them to be effective. Now, who do I think will, you know, hey, that guy over there. Hey, that guy over there. And the rhyme or reason is a long shot, who you think will produce a good 172. Or you pick people who are disempowered. You're not going to pick that man just stepping out of the Rolls Royce. You're going to pick some kid who's not dressed so nice, or some kids who, you know, they may now have their pants half hanging down, or you're going to pick, well, that black guy over there, or, you know, and so it's totally up to the officer. And there is no way of checking that or balancing that.
What prompts an officer to want to card somebody in the first place?
Okay, so I want to just deal with this issue that Dave brought up. I agree in the past, the association, me as an officer, I had some issues with, as Dave referred to, using that sort of numeric equation to evaluate a police officer's performance, and that is no longer allowed. That is prohibited, and that's a great move because that did cause an expansion into that program, which diluted the meaning of the program. But here's what happens, and this is again from a practical standpoint. I worked in a neighborhood where we had a group or gang, whatever you want to call them at the time, who was in a dispute with another gang in another. There was a shooting, and we received intelligence because we work in that and we get information that there was going to be a retaliation. It was going to happen around the community center, and they were going to come in from this other neighborhood. Now, because of all the work that we've done in the community, and we know the people who live in our community and stuff, and we have certain investigative techniques, we know certain characteristics of some people who are going to come in. Some people come into the neighborhood, we know they're not from the neighborhood, we know that the time of day, we know where our people are hanging out, we know there's going to be retaliation shooting. We go up and we talk to these people, say, hey, what are you doing here? They say, well, we're looking for so-and-so. Well, where does he live? Well, he lives up, and it's 3 blocks away. None of the story is making sense. Now, I want to know, okay, where are you guys from? Well, we're from over in this neighborhood. So lo and behold, it's the
So
two
that's
different
what carding is coaching.
So I would take that information and I'd say, okay, thanks, what are you doing there? Now, we put that information into our database. Literally 2 weeks later, there was a shooting, and all we had was a description of the vehicle. And lo and behold, we can associate, and it gives us a jump-off point. Now, if I was doing that same investigation, and the guy said to me, oh, we're looking for Regent Park Community Center, because we got a basketball game at 7 o'clock. I said, oh, it's right over there. They park their car, they get out with their gym bags and walk into the center, and they're playing in the
That's
tournament.
not how carding works, though.
Yeah, that is exactly
No,
how
it's
carding
not.
works.
No, it's
Exactly.
not.
And that's how I did
If you
it.
disagree, well,
I totally disagree.
But-
I'm not saying that didn't happen in that instance.
is that okay? Would that be okay with you, the way he's just described it? If that were the practice?
Absolutely.
That would be fine.
That would be fine.
So where's your
That's not the way it happens. Okay?
tell us what-
Because what happens in here, they're acting on information that they have, and they see people who don't belong in the neighborhood, suddenly, and they know something is building, something is going on. So
So it's not random.
exactly.
Shouldn't be right.
Exactly.
Shouldn't be random.
And it
Both
is
of you.
random. Right now, it is random. And I haven't seen any proposals to take away that randomness. So what Michael is talking about is not the issue of carding as we're dealing with
That's just
it
good
now.
policing.
That's good proactive policing is what that is. And nobody is against that.
You do see the distinction here.
I see the distinction, and that's why Chief Saunders has come up, the policy that they've been working on, and I think the first words out of Chief Saunders' mouth around the issue around carding is we have to take random out of the equation. Nobody's going to dispute that we have to take random out. There can't be bias, but it has to be intelligence-led. There has to be credibility. Police legitimacy is the #1 tool we have for fighting crime.
So when you are in the process of intelligence gathering, as you have
Right.
described it, do you think the people that you are asking these questions of, what are you doing here, what's your name, etc., should they be free to be able to say to you, I don't need to talk to you and I'm walking away right now?
They are. They are free to do that.
They're certainly not told that by the officer in question.
Yeah, and again, that's something that we're debating and looking at and seeing, okay, what is that? What does that mean? And, the law is very specific on what point of engagement when police officers, and we have to give a formal caution. We don't go around when we're talking to you on the street or about doing an occurrence saying, oh, you don't have to talk to us. That's not, because the law contemplated that. Most people, or some people, do know that. But we don't go out and just caution people to start that interaction. We are having some discussions around that and seeing, okay, if we were going to say that to somebody, at what point would you interject it? But our goal, again, is to get out there, get the information, get the intelligence in a lawful, respectful way that is pertinent to doing our job, which is investigating and solving crimes.
One, I would venture as frequently not respectful. Number 2 is saying that people have the right to leave, can walk away, is not acknowledging the pressure put upon people that they can't walk away, in spite of the fact that they can. As an officer, I could walk up and want to question you, and you say, well, I don't have to talk to you. Well, what is it you're hiding? If you're not hiding anything, why would you not want to speak to me? What do you have in your pockets there? I see bulges in your pockets, and you do a little tap. Maybe you don't want to talk to me. That's fine. You look like someone that we're looking for, maybe I should take you in and we'll have a talk about it there. Like, there's lots of ways to coerce someone into speaking to you and giving you information. So they're free to go, but not psychologically free to go.
So what's your advice to people then who may be approached on the street by an officer like that?
My advice is, first off, you don't have to answer any questions. Okay? Secondly, if you do answer questions, tell the truth. Don't lie, because you don't want to get caught up in obstructing justice.
But would you urge somebody to say to an officer who was attempting to gather intelligence in this way, I don't have to talk to you, I'm not going to talk to you, have a nice day, goodbye?
I'm not going to urge them to say that. I'm going to tell them they have the right to say that, and the choice is going to be theirs. I want them to understand that they do have a choice, okay? And they should feel that they should not feel compelled to not make whatever choice that they have.
Mike, is it possible to find, I guess everybody's looking for the sweet spot here.
Right.
Something, a place where you get the ability to do your jobs and investigate when you are suspicious about something, while at the same time not having it be random, not having it be disproportionately attacking one particular ethnic group in the city. Where's that sweet spot? Can you find it?
Yeah, I think we can, and that's what we're working on, and that's what our members, my members, are looking for. We're looking for that direction. We're looking for that clarification, because that's what's expected. And you're at on your street, your house has been broken into. Several homes have been broken into between whatever hours, 3 and 6 in the morning, and somebody's walking down that street, and there's a police car going by, and the person may be looking up the driveways. I think that you would imagine that, I'm glad the police are coming by. They're going to talk to this person, see what they're doing in our neighborhood. We have to be able to engage. We have to be able to talk to people, but we have to be able to do it, as I said, in intelligent light, and get that information. Me talking to that person saying, oh, what are you doing here? And he goes, oh, I live right there. That's one thing. But the guy saying, well, I'm out from wherever, and it's blocks. Well, what are you doing here? We need to be able to get that information. We need to be able to look at that. But again, we have to be able to do it in a way that makes sense and is transparent, and that's the key to solving this. Transparent, but carding has become synonymous with this bias form of policing for whatever reason, whether it's
that's what it's been
in the media or whatever, and interpreted. No, but there's also the component of it that is intelligence-led value, and others have used it.
That is not carding
many times.
That is not an intelligence-led proactive investigation. Is one thing. Okay, but when it becomes random and you take down information based on a look, and whatever you determine, whatever informs you because of what you're in your own mind, that's carding, and that's random, and that's wrong.
So it doesn't matter whether or not you put a card in. If you are policing in the manner as Dave describes, it's not a way to be policing anyhow. So it doesn't matter if you put a card in. If you are stopping people based on the assumptions that they put forward, it's wrong. That's why we're training better. That's why we are the most diverse hiring police service, and I think in North America.
But Dave, if I hear you right, the thing you don't like about carding is that if it's not done properly, it's racist. And my question then is...
It can be.
It can be. So if you get rid of carding, are you getting rid of the problem or the symptom?
Well, if you get rid of carding, okay, then you have to use intelligent, not intelligence, intelligent, proactive policing. Okay, so you can't take shortcuts. You can't be lazy. The police have to do their jobs, in the way that I'm talking about. What I'm saying also is, the police have to have accountability. And so the best way to have accountability is if you want to stop and talk to somebody, they should be given a receipt, the officer's name, the officer's badge number, why they were stopped, the date and the time, whatever the reason is, so that they have that.
Sadly, I have to be accountable to the clock.
I understand.
Which has just run out. But I do want to thank Mike McCormick and David Mercury for coming in tonight for a very good, solid, civilized debate. Much appreciated.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit supporttvo.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.